how do we know there's not more than one God?
Excellent
Maybe
question.
there's one God covers it all. We just think there's different gods, and you're praying to half a dozen different gods. Maybe there's only one.
Excellent question.
The 700-year difference. Who was the Muslims praying to in that 700 years when there was no Muslim God?
I think John had a question. You had a question, John.
Shall we take that question first?
I'm a non-believer, and I don't feel that I've sinned enough to, if there was such a thing as the pearly gates, I've not done enough wrong to be turned away.
Do you accept there's a God, or do you accept there's no God?
No, I don't think it's a God.
Okay, so because this question is all linked to do with about God's existence or not, right? So may I ask you then, because you are, for me, much older in age, in knowledge, in experience, so I am nothing compared to what you've gone through and what you've learned. So I'm just trying to make myself humble here, show the humility that deserves speaking to you with respect. Right. How do you explain the existence of natural physical laws in our universe?
Probably the two suns crashing into each other, which started something off, and at the moment I have no other thought than that at the moment.
What I mean, with all due respect, we have our universe operating, being regulated by certain physical laws of our universe. The laws of electromagnetism, the laws of gravity, the strong and the weak nuclear forces. If you didn't know, that's what the physicists, the people of science will tell you. There are laws operating within our universe. Because of these laws, we're trying to unify under one law and see, maybe one law can explain everything. But
if one planet dies, that would allow another planet to come in.
That's not my question at all. My friend, that's not the question at all. The existence, the very existence of physical laws. Let me make a comparison. I talked about zebra crossing. Now, it could have been a cow crossing. A cow crossing, no one's going to feel safe because no one's going to stop. Because there is a highway code, a law, in which it tells you rules of zebra crossing, what it means. So the highway code is a book of law, book of codes. Do you think such a code can write itself without an intelligent, conscious, willing, and able entity to codify it?
I believe that the world moves on. If you go back to however many billion years ago you want to, and the world won't look anything like what it is now. So things move on, things change. Trying to think of the word that means that. But when you start there and you finish there, animals change. For instance, you could have an animal that's got a tail, move it to another island, and it loses its tail because it doesn't need it. But what's the word I'm looking for? I'm sorry if I'm...
Show me them. My friend, I was asking a very simple question about the highway code.
Yes. Well,
So
I'm trying to say that things
now,
change.
please can you explain? Because you don't see the evidence of a God. I want to now understand what is sufficient evidence for you. So that's why I need to understand the level of expectation that you have of evidence. So let's do the very basics. When we talk about the highway code, could you explain to me whether it's possible for the highway code itself be codified without an intelligent, conscious, able, knowledgeable entity codifying it? It can just simply do it by itself. The highway code itself can write itself.
Yes, I believe it can. It's got to start somewhere. Evolve is the word I was looking for. As the world evolves, but that would be the highway code evolves.
So we would say that every change requires a rule. Otherwise, the change will be not of any meaning. So like the sun rises every day with a particular route. The sunlight follows a particular route. The tree grows a particular route. Even if the change, if you consider the change in the natural world and the animal world, everything is under certain rules.
There we get Ice Age, you get the other one, the Hot Age, wherever
Yes,
that's
so
called.
your eyes and mouth, as we are talking about the standing, everything follows a
I
particular
don't
rule.
see that it needs the God to change it. And the other thing is, before I came here 6 weeks ago and started coming here and learning a bit about the Muslim faith and more about the Christian faith, I had no worries at all. I didn't have to think about God. I was just going through my life, done 76 years, didn't have to think about God at all. But I've only been thinking since I got here. But now, that's a worry to me.
Yeah, so
I didn't have any worries before.
The issue is that maybe you are not thinking about that because no one informed you about that. Why this life, why birth, death, and sorrows, and these things. So that's why what he expects us, or what is the way to success of our success he has designed for us. So these he has informed us. Have you read the Quran?
No.
So maybe you can.
I've heard a lot.
Yeah.
I've heard lots of things.
So God is Almighty. You are right. God is Almighty. He is loving. He is careful. He is Almighty. He is just, and He loves gratitude. And those are grateful. Those are forgiving. Those are humble.
I remember things like Muhammad couldn't write, so he was illiterate, so he couldn't have written the Quran. God obviously can't write the Quran, can he? So things like that. Who
God can send His message to, like we send emails or something like that. So He can engrain with prophets. The prophet said, and He can say those species of God. So God can communicate to this person.
Even if He'd made Muhammad that he wasn't illiterate, and Muhammad could have written it.
The reason why this was the grand scheme of things, because if he was literate, people may be questioning, maybe he is smart enough to write something like that. Maybe he learned how to write and think about all those things. But knowing his community, knowing that he was unlettered, and then the Quran came to him, they could immediately recognize it cannot be made by him. There's no way this Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is able to produce a book like that, talking about history, archaeology, talking about economics, talking about justice, talking about science, talking about anthropology. Every avenue of science or scientific understanding or our avenues of knowledge, the Quran covers all of these things. So this is a sign to us to say, look, think, how can you somehow say this particular individual is able to write such a book like that? Imagine you have not studied science, and then you come to me and say, here is the scientific paper to publish in the best well-known scientific journal. And if I look at it and say, then I ask you, do you know anything about science? And we realize that you know. And I was saying, come on, that cannot be your work, right? Because there's no way you can produce something like that. Like if I ask you now, can you produce the next generation iPhone 17?
Say no.
Yeah, but if you brought up the manual, the way of making, method of making, all the calculation, the physics, the maths and so on, and people say, looks like it, because that's iPhone 14 now, or what is it?
15 or 16.
15, 16, whatever. 16. Currently this is it. So yeah, it looks like it. This is some modifications to it.
Yeah.
This is exactly what people can see from the Quran. It is not possible for someone at his time or even today. I mean, I want to add a bit more there. Quran has that divine hallmark so that we can know for certainty it's from God, because people are questioning, how do I know it's from God? How do I know God exists? The Quran says, produce a single chapter like this Quran, a surah, or a 10 chapters, 10 surah, or the whole book like it. For the last 1445 years, people keep trying, but they've been failing to produce something like this because God composed the Quran, delivered it in such a way.
700 years after the Bible.
Yeah, roughly so.
How does that work? So do the Muslims need the Bible?
No.
Whereby Christians don't need the Quran.
Muslims don't need the Bible. I'll explain to you why so. So here, God is saying, thus has He revealed to you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and to those before you, Allah the Exalted in might, the wise. To Him belongs whatever in the heavens and whatever is on the earth, and He's the Most High, the Most Great. The heavens almost break from above them, and the angels exalt with praise of their Lord and ask forgiveness those on earth. Unquestionably, it is Allah who is the forgiving, the merciful. So,
understand all of it. Something I'd have to and read 7 nights a week in bed.
Of course, this is for you as a gift from us.
Gift, yes.
Now, what we're saying is, so Quran challenges people to falsify this book if they don't think it's from God. It challenges the elites, the people of knowledge, because that's how you can establish something true, rather than simply saying someone who cannot do that. So, to know God, it's not that difficult to know, because we know, for example, I can't make this camera. I don't have that knowledge to do so. This world is more complex than the camera. You and I know that. So, what made that world? Scientists often try to deceive some people by saying, dogmatic scientists, not genuine ones, it's all about evolution. But evolution only deals with life. It doesn't deal with physical matter like the sun, the moon, the stars, the galaxies, and so on. So when we see all the galaxies, they're all rotating in a specific manner. When we look at even to the very micro, smaller level in your body, like go into deep, smaller units, we call atoms, and you break down into quarks. There's laws operating within it. That's how we are structured like that. Why am I not suddenly becoming like a potato at this minute?
Because one more question then. How do we know there's not more than one God?
Excellent
Maybe
question.
there's one God, covers it all. We just think there's different gods, and you're praying to half a dozen different gods. Maybe there's only one.
Excellent question. What's your name?
John,
I am Mansur.
that's from the Bible.
John, I am Mansur. Yep. Very nice meeting you. Pleasure speaking to you.
Maybe I've been put here this last 6 weeks to learn a little bit.
Could be,
you
could
never
be.
know, do you? Well,
So yes, so everything indicates that these things, the trees, the sun, the moon, the galaxies, they cannot just simply pop out into existence from nothing by no one. There is a creator, a maker, who made it. Now the next question is, once you understand that this is the case, maybe there are many gods, like some people say.
or only one.
Or only one. Absolutely. We believe there can only be one God.
Yes, but it doesn't have to be yours.
Right. So let's exclude many gods first, right? What if there was a possibility that there was more than one God? Each of them were absolute in their power, in their might, in their knowledge. Yeah. Imagine now one God says,
I don't like that idea.
But
They'd be fighting each other.
Exactly.
Exactly. Satan actually wouldn't be a god.
One God would say, I don't like John.
Yeah.
I want him to become into now a cauliflower. Become a cabbage.
He's 76-year-old cauliflower.
Yeah. Now the other God says, no, I like John. He's very honest, very sincere, truthful, a man of integrity, righteous character, caring.
And I'll give him a bottle of scotch.
Right, caring, and he's going to avoid things that's going to befog his mind, like alcohol and scotch later, inshallah, God willing.
Sure.
Yep, because it does befog people's minds and impairs judgment. So the other God says, no, I want him to be as he is. Healthy, caring, loving, nice individual as he is. What's going to happen to John? Is he going to turn into a cauliflower, cabbage, or he's going to remain John as he is? Those two gods are going to fight over each other, right?
Yes.
What's going to happen? Possibility, you remain as you are, then the God that wanted you make into a cabbage, it's not God because it failed.
If I get the choice,
it's going to fail.
If I have any sane.
But what I'm saying is, a God that wanted to make you into a cabbage and couldn't make you into a cabbage is not God because he's the Almighty.
Okay.
The other God who wanted to keep you as you are is God. And if you turn into a cabbage, then the other God which wanted to keep you as you are, John, is not God. So either way, you can only have one God.
Almighty.
So now we understand there can only be one God. The question is, who is that one
I
God?
have another question there, which I half brought up a minute ago, and that is we're talking about the 700-year difference. Who was the Muslims praying to in that 700 years when there was no Muslim God?
Sure. So in our perspective,
Yes.
belief, Muslim is a practitioner of Islam. Islam is the religion, the way of life. Muslim is the one who follows that way of life, right?
Yes.
A Muslim is someone who submits and surrenders their will to God. Whatever God says, do good, I submit to do good. Avoid evil, I submit to God to avoid evil. That's what a Muslim means. To follow the will of God and submit to the will of God. Now, is this something that was taught by God before Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Before 700 years? The answer is yes. First human being that was created I'm sure you've heard about that story, Adam and Eve. They were Muslims. Why? Because they were commanded with the same teaching to submit to God. Subsequently, every human beings were taught to be Muslims, to follow Islam, which is the submission to God. So Christ, Jesus, the son of Mary, brought Islam, didn't bring Judaism or Christianity, brought the religion of submission to God, worshipping God alone. He was a Muslim, he asked people to become a Muslim. It's a misunderstanding because people start thinking Islam is an Arab religion, Muslim means an Arab, you have to become an Arab. It's not that.
It's not far from Judaism.
It's the concept.
Is it
Judaism
is very close.
Exactly. Judaism had that teaching too. You worship none but God. One and only God. So what they sort of went wrong is when they stopped following the future messengers that came to them. Because when another messenger comes, he comes with correction of what may have gone wrong, because people changed the books, changed the religion. Or a prophet and a messenger may come with additional guidance, rules, which is needed for them, which in the past was not needed. Or the guidance that comes now is going to be complete for everyone. So people of the children of Israel, God gave them a specific way of living. It was only for them. Instruction was for them. It wasn't for the Chinese or the Ethiopians or the English, only for them. So when Christ came, he came to this specific group of people as well. He didn't come from the French or the Germans. People misunderstand when he says go and preach to the all nations. He meant the 12 tribes of Israel. So after they left their duties and they passed away from this life and their duties, Christ, we don't believe he's dead. God took him up from the oppression of being killed and crucified. He will come back again at some point and he will die. God sent the final messenger for all people. So he's no longer a messenger, a prophet for a specific group of people, but Quran tells us that he is a messenger for whole of mankind. And the guidance is for all of the people at all times. That's why you don't need another prophet and another messenger. So what did people call 700 years ago? They're all calling to God. They were supposed to. But those who did call upon God, worship God alone without ascribing any partners, followed the will of God, they are the ones successful to go into heaven. So we don't say, oh, no one is going to go to heaven. No, anyone, at any time in history, whoever submitted their will to worship one and only God and followed the will expressed through the prophets and messengers of their time, like a Jew individual, a Jewish person, at the time of Prophet Moses, if they followed that law and guidance from Prophet Moses, upon him in peace, and they died in that state, they go to heaven. So to be a successful individual, all one people needs to do is follow the messenger who is current and submit to the will of God. And now today, who do we have? Which prophet who is current? Prophet Muhammad. So that's what you need to do. You believe in one God. Makes sense to you?
Growing in popularity.
Yeah. So you, my friend John, you know there's one God and you believe in him. Do you think he's the one worthy of worship?
I don't think there's one God. I don't think there's any gods. But I would accept if there had to be a God. I would hope there's only one.
Absolutely. So the question now is to confirm to you, John, whether there is indeed a God. If there was no God at all, I say there should be nothing. There should be nothing. This wonderful world that we live in, where the water defies gravity and goes up the roots of the tree and all the way up to the branches, because gravity means pulling down. Imagine you leave some water on a bowl. Would the water just climb up? It doesn't climb up. But that's what happens in a tree. It goes around.
Scientists will tell you that's evaporation.
Scientists
and explain how it happens.
No, scientists tell you the law, the process and the law.
Describe the walk of
Yeah. What made that law? Who made that law, rather? That every time we will say it's the lawmaker. The lawmaker is not a scientist because they only discovered that law. They didn't make it. They discovered, meaning they found, and they have now come to know that this is the law that's operating. The scientists didn't make that law. Our parents didn't do it. Who could have made that law?
someone intelligent, wise.
Someone who is intelligent, someone who is the ability? And who is that someone other than God? You tell me, John. If it's not God, you can tell me now. Who is intelligent enough, able enough to make such a law?
That one I don't know, but what I do know is there's some marvellous magicians in this world that you couldn't, that can have a blanket and turn it into, and an elephant comes out of that blanket 10 seconds later.
It's illusions of the eye.
Yes, it is. But I mean, that's something.
They can't make the law.
But these are
No,
laws.
but they can do the tricks and the tricks.
But we're not talking about tricks,
No,
though.
but they are, aren't they? Because sometimes you look
they
up
are.
in the sky.
They're tricking.
And something happens up in the sky. And people, millions or a few, whatever years ago, couldn't explain that, what it was up in the sky that was coming down and meteorites, smashing
We are
up
not
the
talking
earth.
about those types of gods. I mean, we are talking about the God who is involved in our daily life. He has created my eyes, nose, and everything. We can see his actions.
A good example of what I'm trying to get over is when the seas opened 700 years before Jesus, and was it Moses? He opened up the seas. Now,
By the power of God.
You say that, but I was in Ibiza in a bay when the tsunami we had a few years ago, and I was there when it happened, and the bay emptied of water, and 10 minutes later, 15 minutes later, it came back. Now that to most people would have been an absolute miracle. But we knew what it was. 2,000 years ago they wouldn't know.
Can you do it now?
No, not unless we had a tsunami, then it would happen again, wouldn't it?
Those types of external events needs a special situation, right? In normal days, normal day situation.
Very quickly, Moses would have got not the blame, but Moses would have got that one, wouldn't he? He'd have said, "That's me. Come on, let's get across the bay while it's empty."
That was not a coincidence. I mean, because Prophet Moses using his staff for various events, like it's in a dispute in the court of Pharaoh. So it's a consistent. I mean, yes, you can make those. I mean, even people can move the waters,
Yes.
But that requires a special setup. But God, being the lawmaker and the enforcer of universal laws, He can change as He wish. I mean, He is the one. He is the one who has made these laws with purpose, and He is enforcing with His ability and power. He has created these laws with His knowledge, ability, intellect, wiseness, and He is enforcing them with His might, power, and making these events unfolding, flowers, birds, our lives, joys.
If you're if you're right, then it was your God that made the tsunami that caused the bay to empty out.
Yes.
So,
it is God's
So now
fault.
we want to understand really God. Who gives us life? Do you think it's our parents?
I suppose so.
Okay.
It has to be. Without them, you wouldn't be born.
If our parents have the ability to give us life, if I died as a child, because they had the ability, they could just give me life back again, right? Can any
So
parent?
have another one, you mean?
No.
Of the same
We're talking about the ability to give life. If we say our parents gave us life, then that means they had the ability. So if I died as a child, if you died as a child, if anyone dies as a child now, and parents have the ability, they should have the ability to give us life again to the same child. But
Some
the fact,
do in hospital, though, don't they?
no.
You get some come out of hospital alive.
No.
and some
I'm
dead.
saying, if you see a child dies, do you see any parent in the world today has the ability to give life again to that child? No. So the parents, that means the parents do not have the ability to give life. Life came from somewhere else, someone else. That's what we're saying is God that gave us life. If you say it's not God, I'm going to ask you this question. Who then? Because the parents definitely can't, because if they had the ability, they could give us life again and again every time we die.
Why doesn't God bring them back instead?
That's not the question. He will bring back again in the day of judgment. He gives us one life as a test, and that's how you behave, whether you're good or bad or not, and then you will have the consequences we were talking about. If you do good, behave good, then you'll have a good reward. If you have,
I behave very good.
if you are evil, then you'll have evil reward. Are you grateful to God?
No.
That's the problem. We need to be grateful to God to have that key to paradise. Because that's the key.
I did steal some sweets from a
Yeah.
sweet shop.
So
years ago.
we're saying, look,
Don't
John-
stop me going into those pilgrims.
Brother Sarwar earlier on asked you about these things, okay? This is quite important. So when we're talking about gratefulness, if you help him in whatever way, remove him from almost being killed, took him to the hospital and all that, his natural response will be one of gratitude. Say, thank you, John, for helping me out. Thank you for saving my life. God gave us the heart, the lungs, the stomach, the brains, the eyes, the ears, everything. And how many of us are thankful and grateful? That's what is needed.
We have to acknowledge the relationship with God.
And Christians.
So we need to now show the basic level of gratitude to God to be considered to be going into paradise.
That's if you
heaven.
believe that he had something to do with it.
But you and I know, John, now there is God.
No, I don't know that.
So what else do you need to know that God exists?
Um,
What would convince you, my friend John, that definitely, if you now tell me that I will believe in God,
He'd have to come and visit me.
right? If somebody comes in now, he says, okay, I am God, would you believe in it?
No.
There you go. So it's not going to work then. What you're
So
expecting,
I've been here 6 weeks running.
if somebody, if
I've
even
seen,
God,
you know.
if God came and he told you that I am God, you would still disbelieve in him. So it's finding out what your expectations are, as I was saying earlier on. What are you expecting for? Do you think there should be stairs going up to heaven and then you'll believe in God? Do you think the dead should speak?
I've got
Do you
to see
think
a
there should be a
miracle.
mountain of gold and you'll believe that God exists?
I've got to see a miracle that affects me. I'm not asking for anything, but it affects me. Maybe
Every
saves the
moment
life
there's a miracle.
of my wife. Or,
Every
or
moment,
whatever.
John, every moment a miracle is
When
happening.
I need him,
Okay.
Every
then
moment.
then maybe I'll ask.
But every moment a miracle is happening. Are you beating your heart?
No.
Stop
no.
beating. Try to stop beating. Say, heart, stop beating.
It's not voluntary, is it?
So every moment of your heart is a miracle. God is making sure your heart beats. And when the time expires, everyone has a fixed time, then we will die.
I want
you,
that done for a relative or someone.
because
that's
everyone has a fixed
on
time.
the deathbed. And
Everyone has a fixed time. You cannot prolong it, you cannot delay it. That is the time fixed for every individual, and within that time frame, as Brother Sarwar said earlier on, one needs to dispose of their duty and obligation that they had in term with God. Did they fulfill the purpose of your life? Your shoes have a purpose. Your eyes have a purpose. Your goggles, your prescription glasses have a purpose. Every part of your body have a purpose, and you're saying you as a whole doesn't have a purpose in life?
Other than evolving into an even nicer person, hopefully.
Did
as I
you-
get older,
John?
I believe I have. I was a little shit when I was,
John,
15 years old.
John, think. Did you make the purpose of your ears to hear and to have balance? Did you make it? Did you design it?
No, but who did? You're going to say
Right.
God did.
So the question is,
I don't know.
since you did not design the function of your ears and your nose to smell, the eyes to see, and so on, all of your body, what is the purpose of your body? All of it together, which is not set by you.
To live a good life and help other people during it. I have 30 children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and another one on the way, so it's 31. So I've had a very, very happy life. You couldn't be much happier after having.
So you should be more
30.
grateful to God.
Yeah. So you should be more
you say.
grateful to God. Yeah.
But it was me or my children that done it. It wasn't God. As far as
If he wasn't
I'm
God,
concerned.
we'll be all. If God didn't wish us to remain, for example, as we are, because He is in the control of all affairs. He's given us all these blessings, so much blessing. In the Quran, I want to show you Surah chapter 55.
Right.
When you go there at one point, I mean, you've got
He's made,
glasses.
if there is a God, He's made me very happy, you see.
Yes.
I've got happiness throughout
Chapter
my life.
55 continues to tell at least 31 times God asks you, what favors of your God, your Lord, would you then deny? Keeps on by telling you these are the favors He's done. what would you deny? So there are so much favors God has given us.
That sounds like advertising in the supermarket. They just keep saying the same words.
Yes,
you
sir.
No, what I'm saying
That's
is
very good. In the sense that we acknowledge that,
God reminds us of His favors so that we can come back to our senses saying, oh, of course, He's given us life, the provision, and all of that. So we should really be grateful to God. That's what it means to worship God. The essence of worship is grateful, being grateful. So when you become a Muslim, John,
Yeah.
it is all about being thankful to God and grateful to God. Being thankful and grateful to other human beings. Looking after the environment. Looking after the children, the elderly. Being truthful, being just, being kind, being merciful, being compassionate, being reasonable.
I do all those except the first one.
Now,
Yes.
being all of that, when you come to Islam, you'll realize it will uplift you even more. That's why we are inviting you to
There's
Islam.
simply that will lead you to your all the good works and your good character, everything will be add up. Like 1 up 0, I mean if you put 1 before 30, then it will become 1,000, you know. If you remove 1,
Have you heard of brownie points?
Yes.
You know what that is?
Yeah.
Brownie points. So that's what it sounds like. You've got to do lots of good things, which I do. It's the praying bit. If you pray, you get more brownie points, and you got more chances.
Let me just give you one example. One example that suffices. Suppose you work for a company, right? The company employed you. That's what your job role was. At one point when you work, you're now retired?
Yes.
Right.
yeah.
When you were working for a company, you knew that you had the moral duty or the legal duty, whatever obligation it was, to turn up to work if it was to go to the offices or wherever it is, at certain amount in time, in the morning, whatever time it was, and then finish at a certain time. Have some breaks in between and do the works for that company, whatever it was. And at the end of a week or a month, they give you some wages, a salary, as a compensation to your work and a reward of your time that you've given to them. Now, suppose you are employed, instead of doing the work for the company, you went to his company and you did all the work, which is a competitor. Now, do you expect the company that you're employed at the end of the month to give you the salary because you actually work for the competitor?
No, of course not.
Of course not. So all the good works that you think doing, if you don't do it for God, then why would you expect some reward from God when you're doing it for someone else, your own self? If you're doing it for your own self rather than from God, then why should He then reward you?
another point is that
And the other point is we're talking about, I like the idea of being one God, but maybe there's 10 gods and He's one of them. So maybe you move from one God to another when
There is only one God, we established that.
One
well,
God.
we hope so. Yes.
Yeah.
No,
So
I-
and another point
if,
is
if
that
there was a God,
another
I believe
another
there would
point
only be
is
one
that
God.
we are using God's favor so much that even if we do thousands of good works and we deny God's favor or be ungrateful, this smaller ungratefulness adding up in thousands and millions for every moments of life will cancel the other good work, you know.
Yeah.
Because we owe so much to God, you know. I mean, every moment of our life, every atom of our body is designed by God. I mean, every moment of happiness is given by God. We did not earn those. We did not earn our eyes, nose, these things.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I will
Yeah.
read this
Yeah, yeah.
Please
that's
do.
it.
over the next.
Because the
3 months.
key to success of your life in the hereafter, the key that you need the key
acknowledge
is
the
to acknowledge that God is your creator and you submit to Him. So you acknowledge in your heart, declare with your tongue, with your mouth, you profess to say, I believe there is no God worthy of worship except Allah, the one and only God, because that's the name that God has given us. He has many beautiful names, the most just, the most kind, and so on. And you acknowledge that Prophet Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, messenger of God. Once you believe and acknowledge that and declare it with your tongue, then you become a Muslim. Then you become the recipient of God's mercy for paradise. So this is conditional. God says, yeah, of course you want to be good and you're doing good. He's not going to take that good away from you. You will have that good, but the condition to go to paradise is based on that condition that you acknowledge that yes, you are my creator, rather than saying, I'll do my own thing. Because if you want to do your own thing, you might say, okay, fine, let me breathe my own air. Let me drink my own water. Let me drink my own fruits and veg. But the fact of the matter is, you are already breathing the air of God. drinking the water of God, eating the fruits of God. So you need to now
True or ungrateful? I mean, true
be
or
grateful to that, because it's not yours to begin with. So acknowledge that yes, it is yours, and I do understand and acknowledge that. That kind of acknowledgement is what is necessary. It will make you even more happier. I'm
And
going to
then
tell you one
when
thing.
you will recognize the prophet sent to you, and he will, when you accept him, and then you will be, I mean, you will be in his, I mean, in the party in the heaven, or in the day of judgment. God will inform him that John has included himself into my, I mean,
You see, when you look at yourself, you have a very sincere heart, John.
Yes. No,
You
I
are,
agree with
from
that.
what we've spoken to, a very nice individual. God doesn't want individuals like yourself to go into place of punishment and torture. And the way to stop ourselves from going so is by acknowledging our Creator, because that's what He wants you to do. Don't feel some kind of arrogance in your heart, because there are some people who are. They somehow feel like, why am I going to accept you, God? Because even after knowing so, just be as you are, as sincere as you are, and say, of course, I know you exist, because I cannot understand any other way.
Then I have to learn that he exists. Then. But at this moment, that doesn't.
listen, think about
doesn't
this.
come to us. Remember what I said? I need him to come to me. Not,
He has already
not
come
to
to
do
you.
me any favours. I don't need any.
He's already spoken to you already in the Quran.
Maybe. I need him to come to me.
Yeah, just ask him.
do something for me, but for a family member or something.
God is being kind to everyone, but everyone has a test to undergo. So some test will be something of a loss of life, loss of wealth, loss of something of our crops and so on. Some kind of fatigue, weakness, disease. There will be all this. Otherwise, what's the meaning of tests?
I've had plenty of tests in my life. I've had
Yeah.
plenty
So
of tests.
everyone will have tests. So you can't just simply say God doesn't exist because there's a test. Because tests are the ones that we will then come out from it and knowing, yes, at least I know that I was able to be thankful and grateful to God with all these tests. So God will be merciful to me, and God will shower His blessing, His grace on me in the hereafter.
Let's see if he comes and shows himself to me.
Yeah, keep on reading the Quran.
That's what I need.
Okay,
Thank
John,
you very much,
pleasure
everyone.
speaking to you.
And
All the
I'm not
best.
going to be able to move now. I hope he can make me
You've been
move.
studying, yeah, okay. So we'll help you.
Because they'll be all right in a minute.
Yep.
My legs have, I think I've grown some.
Do you want to sit somewhere? We might have. Okay.
I'll lean.
Come to the fence side, sir.
I'm standing too long.
Yes, you are indeed.
Thank you for listening.
Of course, of course. Pleasure speaking to you, John. And we hope to see you as a Muslim soon. Okay. Yeah. To become a Muslim is easy. It's only to say these words. There is no deity or God worthy of worship except one and only God, Allah, and Muhammad, His servant and His messenger. You become a Muslim. That will save you and I from the fire of hell.
If you get the time that lady wants.
Oh yes, sure. Thank you. She's been waiting so patiently. Pleasure. Take care. Take care. Yeah.
cut off the water, cut off everything.